evening and welcome to the Homeless Perspective Live weekly update for Saturday, January 23rd, 2021. I am Tim Houchin, and tonight I'll be your formerly homeless host. Thank you for watching. Tonight is another episode of the ongoing conversation surrounding the dedicated topic to this and all other live broadcasts for the month of January. That dedicated topic is homelessness and the opioid epidemic. And just as if the head-on collision between a growing epidemic from the use of opioids and a worldwide pandemic were simply not enough, then you throw in the convergence of the lethal drug fentanyl, and you get the effects of what appears more like a train wreck in slow motion. It is the combination of epidemic, pandemic, and fentanyl that made 2020 the deadliest year ever for persons experiencing homelessness. We will review a recent report on homeless mortality to get a better understanding of how the lives of so many homeless lives were taken from us with hardly a fight. Armed with this new information in hand, so does the struggle begin to make damn sure that we never lose this many of our homeless brothers and sisters ever again. Tonight we have a special guest. Mike Schaub is with Social Model Recovery Systems in Los Angeles, and he will discuss some of the challenges that are faced by homeless persons who struggle with opioid addictions. We will ask that he speak about ways that we can help them to meet those challenges and make sure that they survive, prosper, and become housed. First, we will review the top homeless news headlines for this past week. In news from Fresno, Mayor Jerry Dyer announced on Friday that homeless outreach workers have begun speaking with people living on the embankments of freeways in Fresno in an attempt to get them housed and off of the freeways in the start of the mayor's new Project Off-Ramp. It's the first major action under the newly elected mayor and targets an estimated 250 people who have set up tents, creating encampments in areas that officials consider unsafe along highways 41, 180, and 168, according to Dyer. The project began in the area of Divisadero Street and Highway 41 and will make its way north. There are about 700 homeless campers along the freeways in Fresno altogether, but Dyer said that the program is aimed at the 250 in the most dangerous and unsightly areas. Here's a video clip from the Fresno Bee.
One of the number one complaints that I received as the mayor of Fresno, even long before I took office, was the fact that our freeways are filled with folks that are homeless. We have tents that had been erected throughout our embankments, and there's trash thrown everywhere. And many folks don't know that the freeways are the responsibility of the California Highway Patrol, Caltrans. However, it was my desire to see the freeways clean. We began working with Caltrans, CHP. We put together a plan in Fresno called Project Off-Ramp. Much of it has to do with not just the unsightly appearance of our freeways, but the public safety hazard and the health hazard that we have on our freeways. 618 fires last year on the freeways that necessitated the response of the Fresno Fire Department. We had 3 individuals killed lately who were homeless, who were struck by vehicles on our freeways. So it's much more than just tents and homeless folks that are on our freeways. It's a public safety hazard for those people. And so we are beginning the relocation of those individuals in a very humane, compassionate way. That is relocating them and placing them in housing that we have available thanks to Project Home Key, monies that we receive from the state. And the humane thing for us to do, and the compassionate thing for us to do as a city, is to assist those individuals getting off the freeway, providing them an off-ramp from the freeway, an off-ramp from homelessness, and an on-ramp to housing, services, and a productive life. And that's what we're going to do in Fresno through Project Off-Ramp.
Okay, the City of Novato in Marin County has cleared a homeless encampment at a former military building in Hamilton and threatened to arrest any future trespassers. The city intends to sell the former bachelor officers' quarters building adjacent to the former Hamilton Gymnasium on San Pablo Avenue. It is valued to nearly 10-acre property at $6.9 million. The city cited safety and fire hazards, budget concerns, and its intent to sell the building among the reasons to remove the camp. Some homeless residents and supporters had set up tents, chairs, and a barbecue at the building in December. Homeless resident Jason Saris, one of the lasting remains, said they set up the camp as part of an effort to convert the building into homeless housing. Saris, who was not at the encampment when it was cleared, said he plans to file a claim with the city alleging it violated a ruling by the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in the 2018 ruling, which was denied review by the U.S. Supreme Court, bars local governments from preventing someone from sleeping on public land if there is not enough shelter space. Last week, the city gave Saris a 72-hour notice that all property remaining at the site would be removed. The city seized the items on Tuesday and is holding it until the owner picks them up. Saris said officials seized a box of clothing, a couple of sleeping bags, a coat rack, and 2 jackets. He intends to retrieve his possessions. Now, the city faces $2.5 million deficit at the end of the fiscal year in June, even after staff layoffs and other budget cuts approved last year. And the Novato City Council voted to declare the bachelor office quarters as surplus property last year with the intent to sell it to generate revenue. AB 1486, a state law signed in 2019, requires the city to prioritize negotiations with buyers who plan to build housing, school facilities, parks, or open space before placing its surplus property on the open market. The property was listed on the State Housing and Community Development Registry on January 8th. If a group or organization expresses interest by March 9th, it is guaranteed a negotiation period until June 9th. Okay, the City of Sacramento will allow small sanctioned homeless encampments to open in vacant lots across the city where up to 80 people can sleep in tents, vehicles, or tiny homes. The Sacramento City Council on Tuesday voted to create a temporary emergency ordinance to allow so-called safe grounds, a lower-cost shelter model homeless activists have been demanding for years. Mayor Darrell Steinbergs is pushing to open 63 tiny homes within 50 days, which the council will vote on next week. This plan is all part of the city's push to better address the growing homeless problem in Sacramento and to map out public and private properties across the city where the homeless can be housed. While no official sites have been approved, we know they will be at least 500 feet away from any residents. Here's a video clip from CBS 13 Sacramento.
Homes will soon be coming to Sacramento. City Council members just approved a plan to build them to house the homeless. CBS 13's Adrian Moore is live in the newsroom with the one lingering question about the project, Adrian.
Yeah, and Tony, this so-called Safe Ground Ordinance allows the city to open 60 tiny homes for the homeless within a month. But the biggest issue that still has to be ironed out is where to put them. And at this point, it's still unclear. This is all part of the city's push to better address the growing homeless problem here in Sacramento and map out public and private properties across the city where homeless can be housed. While no official sites have been officially approved, we know they will be at least 500 feet away from any residents. Sites that have been discussed in the past include an Amtrak train station parking lot, a gravel lot on Front Street, and even a garage on Capitol Avenue and 21st.
So we just need to show this community that there's fair share and that this is a citywide, not just a citywide problem, but a citywide solution.
So today's vote is separate, by the way, from the city's larger homeless plan known as its master plan, which City Council will finalize and approve in June.
The Los Angeles County Department of Public Health reported this month that overdose deaths, especially those involving fentanyl, increased among the homeless during the pandemic. The data was released in Public Health's second annual report on homeless mortality, which includes data from 2019 and part of 2020. The report also stated that 1,267 homeless people died in 2019, a record number, and 153 more than in 2018. Now, these stats are from Los Angeles County. The leading cause of deaths among homeless people has been drug overdoses since 2017, and between 2016 and 2019, the overdose rate rose 84%, according to officials. For the combined years of 2017 to 2019, the risk of drug overdose was 36 times higher for people experiencing homelessness than for the general population. The other 4 leading causes of death among homeless people are coronary heart disease, traffic injuries, homicide, and suicide. And according to officials who said they are between 4 and 17 times more likely to die from those 4 causes than the general public is. Methamphetamine was most frequently involved in 2019 overdose deaths, but deaths related to fentanyl significantly increased and then doubled during the first 7 months of 2020, officials said. The immediate steps that the Public Health Department is taking to minimize drug-related mortality among homeless people includes expanding harm reduction services, including syringe exchange programs and distribution of naloxone, and also fentanyl test strips. Also, they will increase the access to supportive housing for homeless people with substance use disorder. Now, here's a replay of a CNN archive video clip from 2019 that explains about fentanyl test strips.
What does this strip do? And I'm interested, is there any evidence that people who use it and find fentanyl in their drug don't take that substance, at least at that moment?
Right. So it's really two great and very separate questions, Poppy. So these strips seem to work quite well at detecting fentanyl. So when people buy heroin and cocaine, they don't realize that it's often, as you said, laced with fentanyl. And fentanyl is just so incredibly powerful. So this test works like a pregnancy test. You just dip it in. It only takes a minute or two. You dip it into drugs as you're preparing them, and you see if it has fentanyl or not. Fentanyl is 50 times more powerful than heroin and so incredibly dangerous. And so the theory is the drug users would say, oh, well, I better not do these drugs. Right. But that's the theory. The question is, are they going to say, no drugs today, or I'll have to go buy some new drugs, or are they going to be so anxious to get that high that they'll do the drugs anyhow? They could also decide to take a smaller dose of the drugs, take less of them. But again, will they make that decision even if they know there's fentanyl?
Right, and that's a question. What I find interesting is that even though this could be a life-saving measure, there is some pretty ardent opposition to this. I know the head of the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration vehemently opposes it, saying, this gives a false sense of security.
Right. That same argument was used, if you remember, Poppy, during the time of the needle exchange programs when those were beginning. And that was giving drug users clean needles to help stop the spread of HIV. And people said, oh, you're giving these drug users a false sense of security with clean needles. Well, I'll tell you, public health experts will tell you that these needle exchange programs were so successful. I mean, they really did reduce the spread of HIV. So that argument, there's some problems with that argument.
Okay, all right. In our ongoing effort to promote solutions, we have dedicated all live weekly update broadcasts to this month of January to discussion on the topic homelessness and the opioid epidemic. Each week we have invited special guests with certain areas of expertise in opioid addictions to speak with us on the program. Now, this week's special guest is Mike Schaub, and we will hear from him right after these messages. Hi folks, it's been brought to my attention that many of my homeless friends and neighbors do not have medical coverage, and that many others that are covered by Medi-Cal are not using the coverage to their advantage. Medical experts are beginning to determine that chronic homelessness is in itself a disabling condition, which means that if you have been homeless for 1 year or more, you may qualify for supplemental income benefits and or disability benefits from Social Security. Now, in order to do this, you must first be enrolled in Medi-Cal. You can go to your local social services office, or you can apply online at www.mybenefitscalwin.org. At the website, you can also apply for CalFresh, formerly known as food stamps, and find other programs that you may be eligible for. Once you have Medi-Cal, you need to establish a primary care physician and go every month, so you can begin documenting any disability that you may have. My suggestion is to choose a healthcare provider that has both an emergency room and a walk-in clinic so that all of your medical records are all kept under one roof. It may take a while for you to begin receiving your benefits, but keep all of your appointments. You may be entitled to receive back pay from the time that you were first diagnosed. One of my recently received a check for $46,000 in back pay. Start today by getting enrolled into Medi-Cal and begin seeing a primary care doctor once a month. Begin documenting any condition or injury that may be permanent or disabling. You will get an opportunity for permanent housing eventually, but I want to see that you survive until that day. And when that day comes, I want to see you prosper. Follow these steps that I have told you today and begin working on a future that is prosperous for you. Survive and prosper, my homeless friends and neighbors. To submit a public service announcement about homelessness, send us a video clip from your organization that is no more than 90 seconds in length, and we will share it with our viewers on Weekly Update. Just go to our Homeless Perspective page on Facebook at www.facebook.com/homelessbrother. All right, Mike Schaub is the Senior Director of Community Relations at Social Model Recovery Systems, a Los Angeles area nonprofit that offers treatment and other services to persons struggling with substance abuse issues and homelessness. Mike demonstrates a dedication to the 12-step philosophy. He's a leader in the field of recovery and a recent recipient of the 2020 Joseph L. Galetta Spirit of Recovery Award. Please welcome Mike Schaub to the program. Mike, please introduce yourself to my audience and then tell me a little bit about your organization, okay?
Yeah, sure. My name is Mike Schaub, and I'm with Social Model Recovery Systems. And Social Model Recovery Systems is a nonprofit agency that's been around since the mid-'80s, coming up on about 35 years. And we basically operate in a couple of different areas since our inception, or to date, I should say. Recovery and treatment. We operate treatment programs, residential, outpatient services, and we also operate education and training throughout the state of California. And we're the hosts of the California Community Opioid Conference. And we also are working in the areas of prevention. And that has been a big area of concern with us for years and years, well over 20 years now that we've been working in. And our level of engagement in the communities has just dramatically increased in the areas of prevention and treatment over the years, and education as well. So we're doing the very best that we can to serve the communities and trying our very hardest to stay engaged and up to date on what the challenges are in each one of our neighborhoods that we're working with and communities. And that could be our grassroots operations in our own neighborhoods and then across the state as a neighborhood or community, and across the nation and into the world. Actually, we're doing some work abroad as well, a little bit, and mostly volunteer stuff, but not as an agency itself. Yeah, so that's a little bit about what we do. Our residential treatment programs, we have a total of about 450 treatment beds and about another 38 housing beds for community-based housing. And that's throughout Los Angeles County, San Gabriel Valley, and Los Angeles.
All right, so you mentioned something about a conference on opioids. That sounds pretty interesting. When does that take place?
Well, it was supposed to take place September 17th.
Yeah, right.
Over at Pomona Fairplex. We've done it for 3 years in a row. 2 1 year, 2 years in a row, I should say. 1 year at Anaheim Convention Center, the second year at Anaheim Convention Center, and the third year we were supposed to have it and had to cancel it, of course, along with everything else that was canceled regarding conferences and people getting together. And that was in September of 2020. Yeah, so.
Right. Okay. So, anyways, we'll
And
look
of course,
forward
the
to
other area that we're involved in. The other area that we're involved in, just briefly, Tim, of course, is people that are experiencing homelessness as well.
Right. Like I try to tell everybody.
Thank you for your service, by the way. I understand we're running in the same neighborhoods, and I want to also really just give you a shout out and let you know how much we appreciate you. You've done a lot of work in this area.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, you know, me, I just don't have the heart to see people die on the streets. And if it's something that if there's a solution that's right before us, and it isn't that hard to go out of our way, we need to be doing it. Yesterday, I read an article that came out of LA County that said that they were going to begin fentanyl test strips. They're going to begin distributing them and more naloxone. Is that something that you think is a good idea for LA County and maybe even for Orange County?
Yeah, if you're going to test, in my opinion, in what doing at social model recovery systems is test for everything, right? And fentanyl's included, and certainly because of when the world changes, we need to change with it. We need to adjust, and we need to figure out how we are serving the community as a nonprofit agency, and what we can do to be part of the ever-changing use and abuse of narcotics, street drugs, and what we can do to help save lives.
That's right.
On a regular basis, there are people that are overdosing, and for the longest time, it became one of those challenges with our agency where, okay, we're here to serve people when they need help and that when they want to engage in a treatment program and when they want to get into services and when we can help them off the streets and when we can get them into beginning the journey of recovery. And that begins with treatment, and in many cases, so we meet the community where it is. We meet the challenges where they are, and we try to adjust as soon as we can.
What are some of the challenges that you think that folks face? What are some of the challenges, the barriers that they meet?
Yeah, I mean, you're working with so many people with so many challenges that are experiencing homelessness and food insecurities and living on the streets, living in parks, living in washes, living in train stations, bus stations. And I don't need to tell you that, you get it. But for your listeners, the people that, some of them that have lost housing, some of them that have lost their families due to challenges related to use, abuse, addiction, mental health issues, all of the above. And, to say that, yes, anything but total abstinence is a good idea. It is a good idea. But what we have is we have such a complicated and complex issue on both sides, politically, the way that neighborhoods respond to people experiencing homelessness, and businesses respond to homelessness, police respond to homelessness, or people experiencing homelessness. And then on the other side, the complications with mental health issues, with those that literally want to live isolated away from other people and choose to live homeless. And then there's those that just got the rug pulled out from underneath them, as we know, and all of a sudden they went from living in a structure, so to speak, into not being able to pay the rent, into possibly living in a car, and then a car that broke, and then it just gets worse and worse. So substances and the abstinence of substances is going to begin the journey of recovery at the beginning of a new life. And substances aren't going to help any of those issues. And we know that. Although it's really, really hard to be able to say there's a one Band-Aid solution for any of this. And I know that you know that, and I know a lot of your listeners know that. But as it becomes more and more complicated with COVID challenges and with groups assembling and with homeless shelters having outbreaks of COVID and family members not being able to find their loved ones because they're accommodating in different areas or themselves, and it's super complicated. I even heard of a person the other day that said, I just simply can't even get my cell phone charged these days because the person that's experiencing homelessness has a hurt ankle. They twisted their ankle getting back to where they're staying, and they can't charge their cell phone. And so they finally had a cell phone charge enough to talk to me to try to find some housing. And so it's complicated. It's very complicated.
All right. People that are in permanent supportive housing with co-occurring disorders, okay, are we doing enough to provide that type of support that they need that will keep them stably housed? That's my question.
We're doing the best we can.
Yeah.
And that's, as far as our agency and the world, our own communities, Los Angeles and Orange County, centering it and focusing it even tighter than that into our own neighborhoods, closer than Orange County. We've been really working with the city of Anaheim for 4 years now with a program called Drug Free Anaheim, right, that just wrapped up in the end of the year, and I don't think it's ever enough. Right. My opinion is, or my thought process is that every single challenge that we've talked about in the last 15 minutes here, it just never seems to be enough. The phone's always ringing. There's always complications and individuals and families that need our services. Although, do I feel good about some of the progress we've made? Yeah, I do feel pretty darn good about that. But I just don't feel fantastic about it. Right. It's the wraparound services that we are partnered with others to help those that are experiencing homelessness, mental health challenges, engaging them into the possibilities of treatment through a screening and into a program that's maybe Medi-Cal treatment services, outpatient or residential. If they qualify for Medi-Cal, they qualify for drug Medi-Cal. Right. And all of those things, mental health issues, even sometimes when someone's ready to go into treatment and they have a dog, and it's like, what do I do with my dog? So the wraparound services include so many different complicated issues that I wish I could wake up every day and say, I feel fantastic about everything that we do. But if I did, then I'd be, somebody else needs to have this job that I have because there's way more work to do.
Right. Look, Mike, I promised I wouldn't keep you long because I know you're a busy guy. I wanted you to get the opportunity to give a parting shot. If you got something that you would like to say that needs to be heard, here's the time.
Yeah, well, again, thank you for your service, and thank you for the work that you do, engaging people and services and nonprofits and coalitions in the community. And, if I were to say anything in my parting words, it would be, this is a we challenge. And wake up every day and do the best that you can to help other people. Put a smile on your face. Answer the phone when you don't want to answer it sometimes. Engage in any possibilities that you can within your own communities. Try to be part of the solution and spend less time with the folks that may be dragging us down into worse challenges by trying to carry their own flags and just fight a pessimistic fight. I just think that there's room for discussion with very, very challenged communities, individuals that have mental health disorders, with all the things that we talked about and on the other side with business owners, with police, with other wraparound services, other nonprofits, everybody together. If we just take a breath and just do our very best to get up every day and see what we can do to help somebody, maybe the world will change around us, and we can continue to do this work and feel as if we're getting some progress made. But it's a we challenge. It's definitely a we challenge. And I feel like there's so many wonderful people, Tim, that are engaged in our communities. And when I talk about communities for the purposes of this, Los Angeles and Orange County, and it's just, I don't feel it's all bad news anymore. I really don't. I feel like we're making some progress, but we can do it a whole lot better if we all have a smile on our face and open up our minds a little bit more to the other side sometimes.
Yeah.
And God bless all the people within your team and within your listeners that are part of that solution.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Fantastic.
You have a great day.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your.
You bet.
You too. Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Okay, we've been speaking with Mike Schaub of Social Model Recovery Systems in Los Angeles, and we would like to thank Mike for his words today. I really liked the advice that Mike gave. He said, wake up every day with a smile on your face and try to help someone, and it just doesn't get much simpler than that. Okay, now chat is now open, or I should say it is now active. If we have any comments or suggestions, questions, etc., we will try to respond to them on the air tonight. If not, you can direct all communications to our Homeless Perspective Facebook page at www.facebook.com/homelessbrother. Okay, I do have one question from Susie Torres. As she asks, why do they throw their garbage everywhere? And that's a good question. Oftentimes the cities and counties or whatever, the jurisdictions where these homeless encampments are at, they don't offer much in the way of giving them receptacles, trash bags, and so forth. And sometimes they do for a while, and then they don't, because it's when the trash collects, then everybody starts to kind of hate them a little bit more. So it's if they just provided the some trash bags and so forth, and came and picked up the trash every so often, it wouldn't collect. That's just my opinion on that. And Susie, if you're there, thank you for your question. If you want, you can get a hold of me at our Facebook page, and we can go a little bit deeper into that conversation. Anyways, I don't see any other questions or suggestions or anything in the chat box. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for this episode of Homeless Perspective Live Weekly Update. Be sure to be with us next week with another program dedicated to homelessness and the opioid epidemic. And don't forget to visit our Facebook page and like us at www.facebook.com/homelessbrother. See all the homeless news stories shown during live broadcast and many more articles regarding news about homelessness and low-income housing at our website, www.homelessperspective.com. And as always, thank you for watching.